Hi, what I'm going to talk about today in this video is America, you are screwed. Now, I'm not talking about all of America. I'm talking about the bona fide Americans. I'm talking about the Americans that were born in this country, that are rooted in this country, that have ancestors who were rooted in this country. I'm not talking about the people who slept through Canada and slept over the Rio Grande River. I'm not talking about those fake Americans. People who pretend that they're Americans. Fakes. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about the Americans who were rooted in this country, whose ancestors were rooted in this country. That's who I'm talking about. You are screwed, America. And I'm being straight up, hardcore truth. America, you are screwed. You are screwed, period. Now let's take social services for a minute. Okay? If you're an American with a social security number, with or without a disability, you're not going to get little to nothing from social services. They might give you a little bit of food stamps, $20 in food stamps, although I don't know what you're going to buy with $20 in food stamps. One rotisserie chicken and a box of Uncle Ben's rice, okay? I don't know what you're going to buy, okay? But if you're an American with or without a disability, you're going to get little to nothing from social services. You might get a little bit of food stamps. You'll get no welfare. You definitely will not get housing. You will not, get housing. Forget it. With or without a disability. If you are illegal, particularly if you're from Central America, you will get $300 per person, per adult, per child. So if you are an adult and you have one child, that's $600. You will get welfare and you will get housing. You will get housing. You will either get government subsidized housing or Section 8 housing. If you are a refugee, you will get food stamps, $300 at least, $300 per person per child. You will get welfare. You will get housing, either government subsidized or Section 8 housing. If you are over 65 or 62, retirement age, you will get maybe a little bit of food stamps, but not much, maybe $17. I've heard $17 in food stamps. You will get no housing. If you are a senior citizen, over 62 or 65, you will get no housing. If you are a handicapped senior citizen, you will get no housing. And let's face it, once people get 62, they already kind of handicapped. Either they're handicapped with this arthritis or emphysema or something, just from living. Okay, they're gonna have something. They're handicapped. Okay. Now I have been studying poverty, extreme poverty, for well over 2 years, probably longer than that. And I noticed who are the majority of the homeless people. Who are the majority? Okay. A lot of them are 65 and over, retirement age. They have serious disabilities, multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, emphysema, and they cannot work. And they should not be homeless. But there's a good portion of disabled senior citizens who are homeless. There's a good portion of black men, young black women, white and black. The homeless people who are non-American, non-American, they're from another country, they're born in another country. There's only a sprinkling of them that are homeless. I mean, it looks like more like 1 out of 1,000. That's what, 1/10 of 1%? Something like that. There's only a sprinkling of foreigners who are homeless. The foreigners and the illegals and the refugees, they get the first choice of housing. They get the first choice of housing. The foreigners, the illegals, and the refugees. That's why you see a lot of Americans on the street. That's why you see a lot of American senior citizens on the street who have worked in this country for 50 years, 40, 50 years. That's why they are on the street, because they're giving the housing to these people. Now, let's be truthful. America is about race. Economics is second. But America is about race. That's the first thing. That's all America is about, is race. It's not even about. Secondly, it's economics. But race is what it's all about. Now Trump says he's going to build a wall, kick all the Central Americans out. And what's the truth of that matter is he's telling Americans, particularly during the campaign, what they want to hear. That appeals to America's, particularly white America's, hardcore racism. When he says, well, he's going to build a wall, he's going to kick all the Central Americans out, he's going to kick all the Filipinos out, he's going to kick all the Koreans out. That appeals to our particularly the white man's cave mentality of kicking all the minorities out. The caveman mentality, the caveman of just kick all the minorities out. Okay, and he knows that too. That's why he used that rhetoric during the campaign and afterwards. Okay, but he's a contractor. He works with contractors. He knows that America needs that cheap labor source. He knows that. So how are you going to get that cheap labor source? Well, you're going to entice the illegals, the Central American illegals, to come into this country. You're going to entice them with housing, government subsidized housing, Section 8 housing, food stamps, and welfare. That's how you're going to entice them. The refugees. Let's look at the refugees. You got the Arab refugees from these Arab countries. Donald Trump keeps saying, well, I'm going to vet these. It's going to be extreme vetting. Okay, right. Where are all these people going to live? Where are 50,000 Arabs that the Arabs don't want? Where are they going to live? Well, I'm going to tell you where they're going to live. They're going to kick blacks out of the government subsidized housing. They're going to kick blacks out of that housing, and they're going to put the Arabs in. Because the Arabs don't want them. Okay, look. We take in 50 Arabs, the Arabs will give us 50,000 barrels of oil. People for oil, okay? So, the government is not building any new housing in any major city, whether it's California, Texas, New York, anywhere, Boston, anywhere. The government's not building any new government subsidized housing. The developers, they want certain type of income people in their housing. So the only way the United States can accommodate these illegals, the refugees that the other nations don't want, is to kick the blacks out of Section 8 housing and government subsidized housing. And that is just what they are doing. That's exactly what they're doing. Okay? If you are black, let's get real, y'all. If you're black, if you're poor white, you're not going to get Section 8 housing. You're not going to get government subsidized housing. You're not going to get it. It's all going to go to the illegals and the refugees and the foreigners. Let's get real for a minute. Okay? So what is the policy? The policy is that if you are an American with a Social Security number, whether you are disabled or not disabled, as long as you have a Social Security number, you are not going to get housing of any type. No housing, no Section 8 housing, no government subsidized housing. It's going to all go to the illegals, the Central American illegals. It's going to go to the refugees. But you got to kick American blacks and American whites out of the housing. Now, sometimes they would give a few Americans food stamps, $20 in food stamps. That should keep our mouth shut. Food pacifies people. So the government would give them, an American, who's unemployed, $50 in food stamps to keep their mouth shut. To pacify them, to keep their mouth shut. And it works, okay? Then the Social Security, what's the policy, okay? We're talking about policy now, okay? Let me tell you about the Social Services Office. Okay, I saw this. Perfectly healthy Central American males. Some had suits on. Go in there. Social services asked for something. They came out with something because they came out smiling. They came out with smiling. Perfectly healthy Central American females going into with their perfectly healthy children. They don't look like they're hungry. They're going into social service. They came out with something. Most likely welfare, most likely housing, most likely food stamps, or all three. Americans that went into social services got nothing except maybe food stamps to pacify them. But Americans got no housing. Americans got no welfare. You just don't know. I see single mothers, white and black, with children who are homeless, living out of their cars. I see that more often than I would like to admit. I see senior citizens on the street asking for money or just plain homeless, and they don't have a car probably because they're too old to drive. I see that more often than I would like to think, than I would even like to admit that I see it. And of course, I see a lot of people who are in between, who are, in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, who are kind of down, just down on their luck or whatever. And some of them are handicapped. They are out asking for money because they do not have government subsidized housing. So the policy, let's continue with the policy. If you are American, if you're American over 65, over 62 retirement age, and by the time you are kind of handicapped, you will get no housing. You will get no government subsidized housing. You will get no Section 8 housing. Period. You're not going to get it. You might get $17 a month in food stamps to keep your mouth shut. That's all you're going to get. That's why they're out on the street. That's why senior citizens out on the street. And senior citizens, particularly disabled senior citizens, should not be out on the street. They should be getting the first of housing. So, and I'm going to tell you straight up, the first of the housing, all the housing is going to Central American healthy people, going to Central American illegals, refugees from other countries. They are not going to Americans. The housing is not going to Americans. The only way the government is going to accommodate the Central Americans, who they want for the cheap labor source, the refugees, who the Arabs don't want, and the United States want the Arabs' oil. So look, these are people the United Arab Emirates don't want. So send them to America. Where are all these people going to live? They're going to live in Section 8 housing, but they're going to kick the blacks out. Kick the blacks out, kick the poor whites out of housing. That's the policy. Forget about what Trump said about the wall. You know what? He's just telling you what you want to hear, America. You want to hear about this hardcore racism. We're going to kick all these strange minorities out of this country. But you know what? He knows it's not real, and I know it's not real. Okay? All the housing is going to the illegals from Central America, the refugees, and the foreigners. All of it. All the government subsidized housing, all the Section 8 housing. They would tell you, if you are a disabled person and you go into social services and you say, I need Section 8 housing, they would tell you, we have a backlog of 10 years for Section 8 housing. This so-called voucher. Why do they have a backlog? Because they have given it all these vouchers to the illegals and the refugees. Particularly the illegals, because they're taking over all the houses. They're taking over all the apartments. I see it everywhere. All the apartments swimming with Central American illegals. So actually, Trump is not kicking anybody out of the country. In fact, the illegals are still coming to the country as we speak. So, in my opinion, Donald Trump is talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's saying we're going to get rid of them, we're going to get them out of the country. And they still come to this country as we speak. 2017, August 2017, as we speak, they're still coming to America in boatloads, and there's nothing the Border Patrol is doing about it. Why? Because America needs that cheap labor source. Okay? But he's telling America another thing because he knows that, particularly the white Americans want to hear this, kick all these strange minorities out of the country. Die. Okay, so if you're a senior citizen over 62, this is what I recommend. You better go get yours right now. You better start saving that check you're getting, and you rent a cheap house or something. You go buy some land. You put a trailer on it or put a tent on it or something. You are not too old to build anything. I don't think you're too old. I mean, I'm still doing stuff. I'm still doing stuff around the house, okay? And outside the house. I'm still doing what you call man's work outside the house and inside the house too. You're never too old to build a house. I'm still building. Okay, I'm still learning how to build. Okay, so you're never too old to build a house. And elderly people, you know what? You better learn to freeze food while you have the energy to do it. You better learn to freeze food for 3 months down the road. You better learn to preserve food. Go get you a pressure cooker. Because the government ain't going to do nothing for you. The government's not going to accommodate you. The government's not going to give you no food. And you can mark off housing right now. You're not going to get no housing. You're not going to get any. Okay, so you better learn to freeze food, preserve food, and you better go buy yourself some property too, put a house on it or something. Or if you buy something cheap, you better learn to repair their houses. Like I said, I'm still doing repair stuff around the house, outside too. Okay, because America ain't going to give you nothing. Okay, so America is going to, like I said, if you're over 62, learn how to freeze food. You better go get you some land, put a house on it, or go buy a shack and rehabilitate the shack. If you live in somewhere like Akron, Ohio, or Toledo, Ohio, go buy yourself one of those tax delinquent property houses and rehabilitate. You're never too old to do that kind of work. Pay somebody to do it if you don't want to do it. Too lazy to do it. You better learn to freeze food, preserve food. Go get you some land. Go get you a lot, because the government's not going to give you nothing. Nothing with a capital N. I'm telling you what I know. I'm telling you the hardcore truth. You may not want to hear. I'm telling you the hardcore truth. The government's not going to give you nothing if you're 62 or over. Not going to give you no housing. Get that out of your mind. You ain't getting no housing from the government. You better get you some housing now. You better go buy you some property right now. And pay cash for it. Why? You don't need a mortgage at age 62. If you are disabled, if you are disabled, you need to make provision for yourself. You need to just do the same thing. But America's not giving Americans nothing. Social service is not giving America nothing. No housing with a capital N. You see Mexicans living even where I live, you see Mexicans living in the very best, completely taken over. Very nice townhouses, very nice apartment complexes. Hardly any blacks there, hardly any whites there. Completely taken over by welfare Central Americans. Completely taken over. Welfare, because how do I know that they're on welfare? Because they don't go nowhere. They go right back to their house in the morning, because people who work go somewhere in a car. And these Central Americans, they got all kinds of fine cars, Yukons and everything. They're getting welfare. Okay, they're not giving Americans nothing. And you may as well get that through your mind. You're not getting nothing if you're an American. You're definitely not getting any housing, because they're giving it to the illegals and the refugees. They're only giving you the food stamp to keep your mouth shut. Have a nice day.